Hey everyone, welcome back to Red Road Paranormal. I am your co-host, Christina Bloom. I am a psychic medium and trans channeler and author and paranormal investigator and all kinds of fun stuff. And my co-host is Bobby Resnick Calkins.
Hey everyone, favorite Resneck here, member of the Stalkers Muncher Tribe, Band of Mohicans, uh, cryptid investigator, paranormal investigator for the Wisconsin-based team, Cryptids and Anomalies in the Paranormal Society, otherwise known as Wisconsin Caps. Let's see, what else? Well, psychic medium also. As you can tell, co-host here. And other than that, I'm going to introduce our lovely friend here today, Miss Brittany Clark from Tales from the Dark. How you doing today, Brittany?
I'm doing well. How are y'all?
Doing
Good,
great.
Good.
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 So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I am a co-host to the Tales from the Dark podcast. We do YouTube videos. We do podcasts. We have done a documentary called Phantom Farm. We have traveled all over the country just looking for weird things and high strangeness, really. So that's
Awesome.
about sums up what we do.
All
Living the
right,
dream.
one
Living
of
the
us.
dream.
She's one of us.
Yes, she is. We
I
don't have to
love it.
corrupt this one.
Nope.
No,
No.
I would say unfortunately, but I have a love for high strangeness, regardless of what it comes with. So happy to
Well,
be here.
awesome. We are happy
Awesome.
to have you. All right. So when we
Yes.
were talking before we started recording, you talked about UFOs, cryptid. I kind of want to hear about that. We haven't had a lot on about UFOs. So
Yeah, absolutely. What do you want to know? Do you want to know first
you're,
Well,
encounters or?
yeah. Do you have a
yeah, what
first-hand
kind
account?
Well, I have a personal account. We actually just went through one. We were just in Eastern Kentucky, which we actually haven't told our audience about this one, so kind of
Ooh,
be
we
a
got the
little
scoop. We're getting
exclusive.
the scoop here.
But I'll tell you about the first one. The first one was a light phenomenon that I myself witnessed. I was by myself. I was about 2 hours away from our house in, I think it was Greenfield, Ohio. We have a Greenville and a Greenfield. So I think it was Greenfield, Ohio. It's been a few years at this point. So I was out driving by myself. I saw what looked like almost like a dome light on my left hand side while I was driving. My window was cracked. And so it wasn't like a reflection from any of the buttons inside the car or anything like that. Stone cold sober, obviously. I was driving. So was driving for a while too. But stone cold sober, window was down, no reflection on the window, and I saw 5 lights in the left hand side of my car, kind of go up in a diagonal, and they were like
Okay.
dome in shape. They were like a yellowish orange, if I remember correctly. And they faded out one by one. So I don't know if you guys have any RGB around your house or computer, but the breathing effect that you
Yeah.
can have RGB do. That's what it did. It went out with a one by one.
Interesting.
Wow.
I drove just a little bit down the street and pulled over in a AutoZone. It was either O'Reilly's or AutoZone. And I called Bob because he wasn't with me at the time. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think I just witnessed this. This is crazy. I'm going to chase this thing down. So I'm trying to remember all the details. We actually did a full podcast episode where basically Bob interviewed me like a contactee. Went through all the questions. Were you under the influence? Did you have any side effects? Did you have any emotional connections or any feelings that emerged? Were there any smells? Anything? Any identifying like features that would be different from normal driving? And we kind of went through all that. I can't remember everything I said. But if you want a further detail of everything that happened and the feelings and the smells and stuff like that, it did smell like a cave. I do remember that. Caves have a
Okay.
very moist smell to
Yeah.
them. Moist, damp smell to them, almost like
Right.
decay, but not quite. And so the O'Reilly's was here, and there was a farm, like all farmland in the back. Because that was the first thing I went and looked at was like, okay, did I see stadium lights? Like, what was there a plane? Like, did I see something weird? So I was on the phone with Bob. I went and followed the back roads behind this O'Reilly's to this farm field, no lights. I'm looking for this thing. This thing is gone as far as I can tell. And then I was looking at the moon, and up in the sky, I see 3 lights kind of twinkle again. Same phenomenon. Dome-ish, yellowish orange, but way farther away than when I saw them at first. And I was like, this thing's leaving. I'm gonna keep following it. So one thing in just the books that we've read, the stories that we've listened to and read about and talked about on the show, is it seems like a lot of phenomenon, whether it be paranormal, cryptid, or ufological, any kind of high strangeness phenomenon, does seem to congregate around water, and especially moving water. It seems to be like a very powerful source of energy, if you want to call it that, for these things. So I looked on the map. That was the next thing I did once I got on this back road, saw it again by the moon. I looked at the map, and there was a pretty big river right by me. I'd say within 2 miles, and there was creeks coming off of them.
Right.
So I started following towards the river, and I was actually kind of driving parallel to it at one point, one of the creeks that branched off of it. And I actually have a video of this on YouTube. It's unlisted on the Tales from the Dark. I can send it to you guys after, but I'm driving down the road, and there's this truck that drives by me. I was like, get out of my way, truck, in the video. I was super focused on trying to get this thing on camera, and I did. And it's kind of hard to see. It was filmed on a phone, but this thing blinked in and out. And then the sky kind of looked sparkly afterwards. It was the 3 lights that I saw by the moon before. So I saw this thing 3 times. And yeah, that was my light phenomenon that I saw in the sky. No aliens or nothing like that, but it was a phenomenon. I couldn't explain it. I looked around for explanations and couldn't find any. So
yeah, you said I'm going to follow this thing, and I'm like, yes, a girl after my own heart.
Right?
I would totally
there,
follow it too.
Yeah, and that's what we do. You know,
Yeah.
things can get dangerous. You know, we spend a lot of times out in the woods. We spend a lot of times in caves. You know, when we were in Eastern Kentucky, we were just in some caves in Western Kentucky, and then went to Eastern Kentucky and spent some time up on Pine Mountain. And that was the other light phenomenon that we saw, which I don't have too much description I can give you, except it just at first looked like a comet was falling to Earth. Like it literally just looked like a streak of white that was coming down and hot. And then it just kind of stopped. And then in the same spots, it was coming out, blinking in and out. It was like a white, hot light. I saw that. Bob saw that. And our friends, Megan and Cody, saw that. We stopped on Pine Mountain and watched it for a little bit, and then we left. But yeah.
Nice.
Now, my question with the UFO stuff, have you tried calling them in ever? Trying to make contact, like, you know, come see me.
Yeah.
Anything like that.
Yeah, we have actually. One of the tools that we actually like using when it comes to UFO phenomenon, light phenomenon, or just being out in the woods, which again, depending on how you look at it, could be a little dangerous, but is the spirit box. We actually really like using that. We like using the Estes method, especially when it comes to contacting anything paranormal, ghosts, and UFO phenomenon as well. And, you know, kind of separate, but not wrapped up into that, but the still under the high strangeness umbrella is when you're out in the open like that. You know, when you go to an old house or a historic building, and you're looking for these specific people that you learned about. You're looking for the people who lived there, the people who died there, who had tragedies there, but also had fantastic lives there. You kind of have somewhat of a roadmap. When you're out in the woods, you don't. You are contacting anything and everything that could be out there. Could be ghosts, could be cryptids, could be spirits, could be old gods in Appalachia. I mean, it could be anything. So,
you know, it never occurred to me to use a spirit box or the Estes method to talk to ETs.
Yeah.
Just never occurred to me. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Just
actually, if you look back at researchers like John Keel, he actually talked about this. And it's funny because Bob loves bringing up John Keel. He's a big fan of his work. And we have a joke on the podcast that we say every time Bob says John Keel, you take a shot. So if anyone's listening, it's time to take a shot. I did it myself this time. But John Keel actually talked about contactees of Men in Black back in the 60s and 70s, when they would have these contactees with Men in Black, these out of the ordinary looking humanoids. Like they look like humans, but not quite humans. One of the ways that they said how you can reach us is in between the channels. You think about an Estes method, you think about the spirit box, that's all it is. It's flipping in between the channels really fast. You're listening, you're trying to hear what's coming through from the other side. So it's something that we kind of applied to everything. And anything we go and research, anything we go and look into, typically we do. I personally, I'm not going to speak for Bob, but I like using the spirit box. It's usually how I like to start things out.
Cool.
Interesting. I
Yeah.
actually like that take on it. I've been part of a CE5 protocol in the past. Thought that was a great experience, but I've never thought about using the Estes out with trying to make contact, which makes sense to me.
Yeah,
It does.
I mean, we've used it in the TNT domes in the Point Pleasant area. That's a super, super weird experience in and of itself, because you're sitting there trying to whisper because you don't want to be too loud, because you don't want the person who's under to hear. We have drummer headphones, Bickworth drummer headphones that we use, blindfold that we use, but you still, like, with how much it echoes. Have you guys ever been in the TNT domes?
No.
I haven't. Not
Oh.
this time.
No.
So the TNT domes are on the outskirts of Point Pleasant, which is the home
Yep.
of Mothman.
Yep.
It's in the McClintock Wildlife Area. They have quite a few open domes that have been emptied of the TNT, and it's just this big, like, concrete dome that when the second you walk in, you start echoing, and it's everywhere. It just goes in a circle and a circle and a circle. And so it's very disorienting when you just walk in there and you have to talk really quiet to actually be able to communicate with somebody. So imagine having someone under, they're completely sensory deprived, can't do anything for you. If something happens, you better hope you can scream loud, because you're by yourself talking to these entities, talking to whatever is out there in the woods. So
Yeah.
it's a fun but scary experience.
Interesting. I, for one, will never be anyone who uses SDs. The thought of it just drives me crazy. But, we're all different, and I love that other people like it and that they get stuff from it. As a psychic medium, which is the only tool I ever use, it's just noise. And
Yeah.
it blocks communication. But like I said, everybody has their favorite tools that they use, and I'm fascinated by what people get from it, even though I personally can't
Drives you
even deal
crazy.
with the thought of having that much static in my ears, but
Yeah.
I know people love it, and I love that they get information from it. Have you gotten really good information from that?
I would say so. We've had, I'm trying to think. We've had quite a few instances where it's pointed to time periods, like something we were communicating with has pointed to a specific time period of, like, I'm trying to think specifically, like Pine Mountain, for example, is in Kingdom Come State Park in Eastern Kentucky. We frequented there a lot, and I want to say there was a pauper's grave out there for there was I'm trying to remember the story. It was a killer who went through rural Appalachia at that time and actually murdered a few women, and there was a whole investigation done. I want to say this is in early 1900s. It's been 3-4 years since I've looked into this, but we didn't know this information at the time, but one of the names that came through was actually related to those cases of unknown murders. I think it was actually a suspect, or maybe it was a name of a family, like a family name of one of the girls that went missing. So there's been a few instances where we get information, we're not quite sure what it means, and then you look into it later, you're like, oh, that's actually really close to this, or
Right.
we this is just a very big synchronicity to something we researched later on down the line. So I think it depends, but right now I can't really think of any specific instances of, some kind of groundbreaking
Right.
spirit box.
Yeah.
But
Right.
we've had in Phantom Farm, actually, there was an instance where one of our friends was under Austin, actually, and during one of the scenes, the most skeptical person on our team, his name is Tyler, was sitting there, was about to ask a question, was pointing to himself because he was going to name us off in the room. And as soon as he pointed to himself again, the person who's under is blindfolded, is has headphones on, is blasting noise to their ears. They don't know what's going on. But as soon as he pointed to himself, the Estes method, the person under Austin said, "I think I heard Tyler," which was also a weird synchronicity. But it's usually stuff like that happens.
That's
Yeah.
cool. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's kind of confirmation that you're getting something, you know?
Yeah, no,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely intelligence. I know, like
Mhm.
investigations we've gone on, there's been times where residents come across. Well, that's not something common you're going to hear on the radio station
No.
or on a commercial. So that, to me, I really do like the SS method.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like you said, it's you once you it does take practice, because you have a lot of jingles come through depending on how busy the area is. But one of my favorite, absolute favorite areas to use the spirit box in general is in a cave system. You shouldn't be getting anything. You're miles underground. You should not be getting anything but noise generator through that spirit box.
Yeah.
So we've had a couple instances there where we've gotten responses in caves, and it's crazy. It's a crazy experience.
That would be
So
amazing.
what kind of spirit box do you guys use?
Right now we have a SB11. SB7 was my favorite,
All
but
right.
unfortunately on one of our trips it kind of disappeared. So I don't know if it retired
Oh,
itself out and or what, but we unfortunately had to get rid of or had to get the SB11 because I cannot locate our SB7 for the life of me.
okay.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one we've been using the last couple of trips. But yeah,
Yeah, I've been wanting to check one of them out. I currently use was the Ghost Box.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We actually have one of those from Ghost Stop, right? Is it
Yep.
red? Yeah.
Yep.
We actually went when we went to Florida a couple years ago at this point, not this last Christmas, but the Christmas before. We went out to Florida and we actually went to their headquarters and they were super nice.
Nice.
It's a small store because most of their business is online, but they still
Yeah.
have like displays of all their gear and their Oculus. We looked at that and that was really cool. But yeah, they had like pictures of the owner of Ghost Stop actually going out and meeting some of the people who use the gear and some of the investigations. It was really cool. It's a really cool place. If you're out, I think it's near St. Mary's, maybe St. Mary's, Florida. It's somewhere out there. But if you're out near that area near the coast, it's really cool to stop at.
Nice.
Yeah.
Next time I'm in Florida, I'll check that out.
Yeah, no, it's definitely worth a stop. I mean, they don't usually sell anything in store, but they absolutely will because we actually needed the excuse me, the spirit box that you had. We actually needed one for the road, so that's actually how we got one from Ghost Stop.
Okay.
We stopped by. I was like, "Hey, we left our SB7 at home. Can we get one?" And they're like, "Yeah, absolutely." So really cool
Nice.
place.
Well, reason why I was asking this is I've seen people both run on FM and others run on AM. What's your preference?
I usually run on FM, just because I mean it's basically the settings that I got used to. I don't usually change it unless there's a need to change it, like if there's a lot of excess bleed through coming through. But I'm also not usually the one who goes under. So Bob is usually the one who goes under for us. I've had some practice with it. We usually, especially when we go on bigger investigations, everyone takes a turn. Because
Yep.
it's just like normal people. Whenever if these are people that we're communicating with on the other side or whoever we're communicating with, people have preferences. Someone might prefer talking to me, someone might prefer talking to Bob or through Bob. So we kind of change it
Yep.
up and see who can communicate better. So
Smart move there.
Yeah.
yeah,
Because no matter how many times you go into the location with people, different people get different evidence.
Mhm.
So to switch it up like that during the investigation is a really smart move.
yeah, and it's something I in particular am really fond of and really kind of gun for anytime we're at different locations is I love using like the scientific method basically of testing a hypothesis and making sure you have a control variant and then your variants that you're actually testing. I kind of go into investigations regardless of what they are with that mindset of what are we actually looking for? I know it's unpredictable, anything to do with high strangeness. You can never say X, Y, and Z is going to happen. And if it is,
Right.
it's not good. It's not fake. It's probably fake and not real.
Yeah.
But that's the mindset I usually take with me. And I'm, of course, adapting every minute, every second, anywhere we go. But that's what I like to keep in the back of my head. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah. What are some cryptid experiences that you all have had?
So, well, this actually is another video we have on the YouTube channel. We went so early on in the days of Tales from the Dark. So this is almost 4 years ago now. Back in 2020, we started with well, it was actually payphones and dream surveys is what we started with. And that's a whole I don't think we have enough time to dive into that one, but that was a whole ordeal. We ended up in Detroit, Michigan, looking for a payphone on 29th Street, and it's the whole thing. But anyway, one of the things that we covered was an app called Randonautica. And Randonautica was kind of like my first, I don't want to say proper introduction to like the idea of manifesting, but when I was growing up, I grew up in Western North Carolina. So I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains. I grew up, a lot of my family on my father's side was very country and, backwoods, but I spent a good amount of time out there. And so anything to do with magic, with occult, it was either embedded in the lore, in the folk tales that people would tell each other, and they're not really, connecting that it could be magic or it could be connected to this other occult belief or thing that's been passed down.
Mm-hmm.
But this Randonautica it's an app that goes off of manifestation. You're supposed to think about a color, an object, or something that it gives you. It's randomly generated and it gives you coordinates. So it's actually local to your area. And you turn on your GPS location and you say, okay, I'm going to think of the color blue. And then as you're thinking of it, you're focusing on it, you hit generate in Randonautica. It'll take you to specific coordinates. And of course, a lot of it could be association. Like I'm sitting here thinking of the color blue, so I'm going to look around the room and I have a blue figurine over there. I'm a hyper focus on that. So could a lot of it be association? Absolutely. But it does get weird sometimes. So we were doing a video and we had done 3 generations. One of them was like, I want to see something red. I want to see something old. And then I think the last one was I want to see something ghostly, maybe, or spooky. I can't remember. It's been a few years now. But that was something I was like manifesting in the early days of Tales from the Dark. I was thinking about it actively. So the first set of coordinates, red. It was red or purple. I can't remember. It took us to the spot where we actually saw a lady wearing a red shirt and holding a red umbrella. It's like red and white striped or associated with the color. And then the next coordinates, it took us to an abandoned old schoolhouse, actually. And this is about 10 miles apart. And again, it has access to your phone, like your phone location, but you can be anywhere in the country and still use it. Like it's just randomly generated coordinates. And then the last one, it took us to this disc golf course, which actually had stretches of trees, like thick brush. And I mean thick brush around the edges of this disc golf course. It kind of looped around, like the whole course itself kind of looped around by this big river. And the coordinates themselves went into the trees. And in between one of the courses and then the big open field, there's this big stretch of trees and underbrush, very thick underbrush that kind of went around. The coordinates were smack dab in the middle of that. So Bob's in front of me recording with the camera, and I'm behind him, like trying not to get stuck by the thicket and the briars and all that down there. And so he's walking in, he's filming, he pans the camera up because we're kind of watching our feet. He pans the camera up, and as soon as he does, this is in the video, we see something run very fast straight through the woods, took off. When you look back on it, it's very hard to see. You know, I'm not saying it's a Bigfoot. I'm not saying it's for sure a cryptid, but it was weird. And you know, we slowed it down, we blew it up, we did all this to try and see what this thing was. The thing that convinced me personally was two things that this was something weird. Is this thing three things. One, this thing was taller than Bob. Bob is 6'7". I'm 6 foot. So he's 6'7". He's taller than me. This thing was taller than Bob. And it was running through the woods, running through the thicket that we were struggling to get through that quick. Number two, when we did slow it down, we saw what looked like an elbow. There was like a Gatorade bottle that got flipped. And then what I saw in the sunlight was an elbow, like this crease right here. That's what I saw in the video. And then we actually went to some good old boys down in Eastern Kentucky. We had talked to them for a few of our trips before this, and we took the evidence to them, and they were hunters. And we said, hey, have you ever seen anything like this? They scrubbed through it. They zoomed in, they looked at it, and they're like, nope, I ain't never seen nothing like that. So we had a very weird experience with that. It was unexplained to say the least for us. But after we left, we went back home and I started doing research. That area actually does, according to BFRO, have quite a few previous Bigfoot sightings in that area, along with some other cryptid stories, but that was the main one, was Bigfoot. One of the older men that we talked to before we left, we said, hey, have you ever seen anything weird out here? And he said, I haven't, but I know this old man. I used to come out here all the time, and he would sit right over there in a lawn chair. And one of these days I asked him, you know, why are you sitting there all day? And he said, according to this old man, that this other old man was sitting there because he had saw Bigfoot at one point and he's waiting on him. He's going to either try to trap him or do, you know what? And that he's going to find him one day. So apparently he would come out there and sit there almost every single day. So other than that, there was a family, a mother and a child two children who also saw it peek out of the brush on the way that you drive into this area. So there is a history of activity in that area, but that's what we experienced and that's what we saw.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, do you guys ever have anything like dogman encounters or anything like that down there?
I have not. We actually go through a series on our podcast. It's called United Strangeness of America. And, you know, we've kind of gone through quite a few states at this point. We're over halfway done. We've actually had to take a break from the podcast for a little bit. We're going to be getting back to that series here soon. But I know there's quite a few dogman encounters all over the country. And I'm sure you guys know, as well as, you know, we've looked into a lot of these things that we're describing are called different things in different regions, but they're very, very similar.
Yeah.
So that's one thing we found while looking into stories, you know, common stories in these different states that we're diving into, is that, you know, you may have a goblin type creature in Appalachia, or even from Eastern to Western Kentucky, they're called something completely different. So, you know, it's something that we definitely looked into a lot, but I can't say I've personally had any kind of encounter with dogman, but we have looked into it.
Okay.
And
So-
Mothman
Nice.
was brought up earlier.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you had an encounter with Mothman?
Not that I know of. We spent a lot
I like
of
the
time.
way you said that. Sorry.
I mean,
Not that I know of.
he could be behind us half these times that we are in the
That's
McClintock
true.
wildlife area, and I wouldn't know it. It is pitch black out there. Unless you got moonlight. I mean, we spend a lot of time at night out in these areas. And oh gosh, we're crazy, because one time we actually were driving through Point Pleasant to get back to Ohio, and we were so exhausted. Actually, one of our favorite shooting ranges is out in the McClintock Wildlife Area. So a lot of times we would just go out there to just go shooting. So that was always fun, but we were so tired. I can't remember if we were, shooting that day or what we were doing, but we were just so exhausted in McClintock. We actually took a nap in the TNT area in the car. And when we woke up, it was pitch black outside. Like the sun wasn't even down. Like when we went to sleep, we were just expecting to sleep like 30 minutes to an hour. I think we slept like 3 hours. So waking up in the McClintock Wildlife Area when it's pitch black, I was like, I'm gonna see Mothman. This is it.
Right. Here's my moment.
Yeah. Write about me, please. Someone film this. But yeah, that's we're a little crazy, but we try to stay as safe as we can.
There's nothing wrong with being a little crazy.
No.
Yeah.
And honestly, I would rather be out in the woods at night than walking in a strange city street at night. So, because I'm pretty sure that the humans are a lot more dangerous than anything else we're going to find.
That's something we've talked about a lot on the podcast. My biggest fear when we're caving especially is that someone's going to come behind us through the entrance and kind of block us in. If it's a bad person wanting to do bad things, we can defend ourselves, but that's not a situation I would prefer to be in.
Right.
But that is something we absolutely have to keep in mind anywhere we go. Doesn't matter where, we always keep that in mind. I mean, from Skinwalker Ranch to caves to Appalachia, we always keep that in mind. We're always monitoring our surroundings, cars driving by. We try to remember colors if we see one drive by, so we know if they're following us or going by a second time, because you can't be too safe when it comes to just being out there, not even necessarily high strangeness, just being outside in general. In some of these pretty dangerous situations, you have to be focused on safety. So
yeah, absolutely. And I'm sorry, Skinwalker Ranch. Tell me about this.
Yes,
that's one of the places I actually want to go.
So I've not been inside Skinwalker Ranch.
Okay.
Unfortunately, my phone is actually my camera today, so I can't show you photos right this second, but I can send photos after with the interview. But so 1 year for Bob's birthday, I want to say this is 2021, 2022, maybe. I don't remember which year. We actually went over to Colorado. So we drove from Ohio to Colorado, drove cross country. He drove the entire way, much to my protest, because who wants to? I think it was like a 19-hour drive, and he drove straight through. And I was like, "You're absolutely insane." He was like, "I'm gonna know I can do it." Like, you're kind of crazy, but whatever, I'll support you.
He's my kind of guy. I've made that trip already.
It's
straight
rough.
through.
Kansas is the worst when it comes to driving.
Boring.
Nebraska too. I'm going to throw Nebraska in there too. Yeah.
I have not driven through Nebraska, so I cannot add that to my list.
I have.
The
one I can't stand the most is Southern Illinois. That's
Southern
me.
Illinois. Yeah.
I hate driving through that.
Yeah, it's at least they got more trees in Kansas though. The area that you drive to Kansas, it's literally all the ethanol plants or nothing. And then they got some animals to throw in there. Like, it's not great. Anyway.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
So we
napped through there.
Yeah, exactly. I was napping. He was driving the whole way and losing his mind. I think I woke up at one point and he was like doing this with the steering wheel. I was like, "Babe, are you okay?" He's like, "I hate Kansas." So I was like, "Yeah, I can see that. Why don't we take a break for a minute?" And he was like, "Okay." But anyway, so we drove to Denver, Colorado, and we spent a couple days there, and we kind of got restless. We spent some time in the Rocky National Forest. Went to Estes Park, actually took photos of the hotel up there as well. It was pretty infamous. And then we were like, okay, we're close to California, so why don't we just drive to Mount Shasta? And looking back, this was a lot of driving. I mean, I'm saying we only spent like 3 days in Colorado, and then we're like, all right, let's go to California. So on the way to California, we drove.
That's right next door. No big deal.
Right.
Well, we drove through, I'm pretty sure. So we drove through Colorado to Mount Shasta, and then we went from Mount Shasta to Vegas. So this was a crazy trip. But on the way, on the way to Shasta, I'm sorry. I always say Shasta, but I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Shasta.
Like to drink, remember?
That'll help. But we drove through the Uinta Basin and we actually swung through. It was like 9 o'clock at night, through the exact town where Skinwalker Ranch is. And we're like, well, we're going to drive over there. So we drove over there. It's 9 o'clock at night. But first, before we drove over there, we went to a gas station. I woke up, I slept through the drive because I grew up in the mountains, but I hate driving the Rocky Mountains. I hate it. I hate it with passion. I don't know why, but it makes me sick to my stomach. I can go 90 on a curve in Appalachia, but I cannot stand the Rocky Mountain driving. So Bob drove during that time. So I was sleeping, but I woke up. We stopped at a gas station, and this girl was working at the counter and she was watching something on her phone. And Bob was like, hey, I'm just kind of passing through. Do you know anything about Skinwalker Ranch? And she was like, funny enough, I'm actually watching one of my friends' UFO watch over in over by Skinwalker Ranch. And he was like, really? And she was like, yeah, I'll comment that you're coming. He's going to be in a red Jeep, red older Jeep. I'll let him know you're coming. I was like, okay, this is kind of red flag number one, but thankfully it all worked out. So that was crazy. We actually never saw this guy. We drove all the way around Skinwalker Ranch, like the whole area, and we didn't see a red Jeep. So don't know where he was holed up at, but he was having fun on his end. But
Heard you were coming, he dipped.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he was like, I don't know these weirdos. They're gonna be coming here at night. What are they thinking?
Right?
So we drove over there. It was only like I want to say 4 or 5 miles away from the gas station. It might have been a little bit more than that. It's been a while since, and it was night, so I can't really remember. Between 5 and 10 miles away from the gas stations where Skinwalker Ranch was. And so we drove up, and when you drive down this road, there's very few houses. There's a couple trailers, a couple of them abandoned. But other than that, there's not really a lot to look at. It's a dirt road. You drive down. And once you get down to the end of this kind of like driveway, there's cameras, and then there's signs. And then it's saying Wolf Paranormal Research, I think is the name of it. I have a photo of it on my phone, but I can't remember their name right now. They have signs up, and you're being recorded. If you cross, it's a felony. Not all those kinds of security signs. And they had night vision cameras. They had a whole pole of cameras and lights and all this other kind of stuff. So it was super, super locked down. It was like 24-hour coverage with security and all that good stuff. The area itself, though, yeah, again, we didn't go in. We weren't reserved to go in or anything like that. But the area itself was so much smaller than I thought it was going to be. It's literally like a mile across, maybe two. I don't even think it's a mile. Like, it's a very small area compared to what I've seen in like documentaries.
Right.
Like, I thought it was going to be this huge expansive space of high strangeness. No, this space is surrounded by houses to a certain degree. I mean, it's still kind of barren, but there's still houses around the perimeter on the other side. So when we drove down, what was weird about this situation is there was a dog, and the dog actually, I don't know how rural of an area you guys have been in, but when I was growing up, my uncle had this dog, this pit bull, that anytime someone drove by, he would try to bite the tires out. I mean, it was, not a good situation. But that was the case of one of these dogs that, I don't talk to my uncle no more, but that a lot of people who live in rural areas have dogs that are guard dogs.
Yeah.
So this dog was biting and barking at the car as we drove by, and we were driving on this dirt road. When we came back, I thought it was tied up. It wasn't, because when we came back, it was gone. Well, we circled around, came back to the gate to kind of look at it some more. And when we came back again, there was 2 dogs. I was like, well, where the hell did this other dog come from? Again, that one dog, not the second dog, but the one dog biting, barking, chasing the car, and then it kind of disappeared. So when we go for a second pass, we go down, turn around at the gate, and then come back down. there was this clear patch of sky further up the dirt road. We stopped and we're like, okay, we're going to look at the stars. When we came back up, when we turned around from the gate and came back up, there was no dogs. I didn't see either of the dogs. But I still kind of stayed like halfway in the car, kept the car door open in case it came running down this road so we could get out pretty quick. We got out, looked at the stars, saw some stuff kind of skid across, but nothing of too much. But then when we were standing there looking at the sky, I heard something behind us on a hill. So the car is parked here. We're standing like right here looking at the sky. There's a big hill behind us. I heard something barrel down that hill. And I mean barrel down that hill. I was like, get in the car. We're effing going. We're leaving. So we were driving off as fast as we could, legally. We definitely weren't speeding out of this dirt road, but we were driving as fast as we could to get back to town. And then we started hearing the dog bark after us. Heard the dog barking. We turned right to go away from the town, and then we got turned around, and then we turned left and went back towards town. We heard that dog. I had my window down. We heard that dog barking a pretty good mile down to the right. And then when we came back down, we heard that dog barking almost all the way back to town. We were stopped at a red light at, like I said, it's between 5 and 10 miles, this red light from that area, the dirt road, the gate, all that, the abandoned houses. About 5 to 10 miles away, we were sitting there talking, and I was like, man, what did we just go through? I really think we just went through something weird. And as soon as Bob said the SK word, I don't personally like to say it, but the SW word, I'm sorry. We heard the dog bark. And I was like, get out of here. Get out of here now. We're leaving. We're done. We're not staying the night. We're not doing nothing. We're good. Bye. So that was the weirdest thing for me going to Skinwalker Ranch. It's just that I don't mind saying it with a name, but separate, I don't like saying it. But that's just a personal kind of superstitious myself. But
a lot of people feel that way about it.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
I'm just a little superstitious. I still got some of that in me, but that was weird. That was weird for me that night. But that was our experience there. We got some pictures. There was a mailbox that had a camera in it. That was weird. But anyway, we went to Shasta. We learned about the Lemurians when we were there. Then we went from Shasta to Vegas. And then while we were at Vegas, we went out to Area 51. We went to the Black Mailbox. That was cool. We ate at the diner that's like right outside of Area 51. So that was really cool too. But yeah, that was our trip for Bob's birthday, and it got kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie.
It sounds like a fun trip.
Like a fun trip.
It was. Yeah. It was really fun.
That's really cool. I had a question about the random. What was it? Randonautica?
Randonautica? Yes, ma'am.
Randonautica. All right, I wrote it down wrong. Okay. I've been curious about that, and I no one has brought it up for a while, so.
Yeah, so basically it's an app. I'm not sure if it's still on the App Store. I can't really look right now. My phone. Sorry, my phone.
That's okay. Right. I can look.
It's just basically I think it's a website and it's an app that you just use to basically it'll tell you like on the screen, manifest something, think of something, and so you can think of colors, you can think of people, you can think of names, you can think of whatever, and you don't tell. At least when I used it, you don't tell the phone, like you don't type it in or anything and say this is what I'm thinking. It just says, it tells you to think about it, and it'll generate coordinates. So there's no communication between you and the phone. And again, it could be association when you actually get to the random coordinates. But the only job of Randonautica is to generate the coordinates.
Right.
There was
still available.
Oh, okay. There was actually some controversy with it because there were a couple of teenagers using it. I think I covered this in the video that we have on Tales from the Dark. I go more in depth of what Randonautica is and the background and stuff like that. But there was controversy because I believe 2 teenagers came across a a deceased man actually while using the app. So I got a bad rep for that, but
Hmm.
Bad rep for body recovery. Come on now. We need all the help we can get with that.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. So well, a lot of people, especially viewed it from a religious context, thought it was um, the work of the devil, basically. And there was a lot of viewpoints that came out about that, but also just parents in general worried about the safety of their children if they're using this app and going to these random locations. Like, what else are they going to find? Kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's fair. I mean, parents being afraid for their kids.
Yeah.
But I've been fascinated by that app because, and who decided that? Like who came up with that? It's kind of
Right.
it's by the Randonauts company. That's what it said when I looked it up. But yeah, that's just an interesting concept that someone would come up with something like that.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I can send you the link to the YouTube video too after this if you want to watch that.
I would love to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So,
Yeah.
and
Send me
then,
some links on Messenger, and I'll definitely check them out.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, it's and that's also Randonautica is also where we have the footage that we caught in the disc golf course. So you
Nice.
kind of both in that one video. So
Nice.
Yeah, you were right. We were going to cover a whole lot of high strangeness. I
Oh,
like that
yeah.
phrase too.
Yeah.
yeah, it's an umbrella term for again, everyone take a shot. John Keel, he talked about this great phonograph in the sky of how history repeats itself, high strangeness repeats itself. It's basically
Right.
this thing that's playing over and over and over again that we're rediscovering over and over and over again. So that's one of the reasons why we chose high strangeness over just one niche or one path, is because one, we love it. Like, we love everything to do with everything we do.
Mhm.
We love researching it. We love learning. We love experiencing. So the more you can encompass in that, the more you can learn, the more you can experience. And there's a lot of crossover. I mean, there really is a lot of crossover that we found between paranormal, between cryptids, between UFO activity, and even just spiritual, activity in general,
Mhm.
or supernatural, I guess you could say. Yeah, that's something we love and haven't looked back on in almost 4 years now. So
I love it.
yeah,
Very awesome. It's cool that you guys are out there chasing your dreams and doing what you love and sharing it with everyone.
yeah.
You're leaving something behind for future generations, saying, hey, this is what we did. Now it's your turn to check in.
And that's definitely something we kind of look forward to too, is just we love sharing what we've learned, whether it be through an actual experience like the light phenomenon that we saw or we have seen, or if it's just figuring out new connections. We just like talking about it. We like learning from others too. The more people we talk to, the broader our horizons are. And
Yep.
we learn something new every day, and we learn from different people every day. And I love it. I think it's an amazing part of being in this community and being in this research.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So sorry, my studio door just opened.
No, you're fine.
Someone actually walked through it. It didn't just open on its own. But
You say we might have to take a closer look here, but
I'll just turn the camera to the opening door. No, there was actually a person on the other side of the door. But I was going to ask, as far as like paranormal encounters with spirits, ghosts, anything like that, what are your personal experiences with that?
so with paranormal, I have not been researching that field nearly as long as Bob. Bob has been, when he was a teenager, he was, doing ghost hunts with his friends and stuff like that. But he's been researching it as well
Mhm.
for a long time. I want to say 10, 15 years, maybe. I can't remember what he usually says. Me personally, I did not get into paranormal when I was younger. I grew up in a Southern Baptist home. I grew up in rural Appalachia, so you guys can probably guess it. What kind of excuse we had for paranormal events or spiritual events. Um, that I kind of grew out of as I got into adulthood, and we we me personally, the only experience I had previously, like before Tales from the Dark and Phantom Farm and all that, is I was really sick when I was a kid, and I mean really sick. I was probably like 4 or 5 years old, and we I was laying in bed with my nana, and I felt like something touched my shoulder. My nana was facing the other way. I was facing her back, and I felt something touch my shoulder, and it was just me and her in her little apartment. And I didn't know what it was, but I just knew that everything was gonna be okay because I didn't know, as a kid I was scared that something was gonna happen to me because I was super sick, and it just felt like everything was gonna be okay, and that was that. But that's the only experience I really had as a kid. And then in Randolph County Infirmary, and just throughout our investigations and things that we've gone and experienced, it's hard to get me to classify something as paranormal or as a ghost, or I usually kind of try to lump it all up and see it from a third perspective. Like, okay, what similarities does this experience have with this one? But we did have weird activity in Randolph County. A big thing about Phantom Farm is the footsteps that Bob and Austin experienced, which were crazy. I mean, audible. It was a very crazy experience. It continued down the hallway to where I was sitting in the base room. We talk about that in the doc, and it was a weird night for sure. But other than that, I mean, specifics I couldn't tell you. We had a lot of activity on the spirit box, a lot of activity in Randolph County specifically. But yeah, I mean, it depends on the day, I guess.
Right.
I think you're right. Day and
So
location.
Yeah.
you've mentioned Phantom Farm a few times. For our listeners, if they wanted to go ahead and see this, where would they find it?
So Phantom Farm is only on Amazon. It's streaming on Amazon. I think it's like $2 to rent it, but it's a full-fledged documentary that we did. The cameras, gear, the whole nine. So it was very fun. It was a very good learning experience, and yeah, but that's where it's at. It's on Amazon Video.
Nice.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I think I'm gonna have to try to check that out tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
It's been really great having this chat with you. You've got some awesome stories, and I know our listeners are really going to appreciate them. If someone wanted to get in touch with you to, like, say, have you investigate a place or something like that, how would they get in touch with you or Bob?
Basically, if you go to talesfromthedark.net, all our contact information is on there. We actually have a listener story submission to forum. You can absolutely submit whatever you want to let us know. You can go through there. We have a Google phone number too, that you can leave voicemails. I mean, we got all of it on talesfromthedark.net. Connections to everything that we do is on there. So
Excellent. Thank you. Thank
Sweet.
you. Any last? Oh, we got some. Well, let me see. I'm trying to think. What do you got coming up, Rez? I know we have July 20th
July 20th, we'll be down at Broadhead Manor
in
for
Broadhead,
your event.
Wisconsin. Yep.
Yeah.
The Moonbow
Uh,
Metaphysical Expo. Just putting that out there.
yeah. Come down and see us. June 1st, I will be up in the Menominee Marionette area for the Menominee Marionette Bigfoot and Paranormal Convention hosted by Cap's team. Let's see. Other than that, that's about it. That we'll be catching. Otherwise, we'll be just giving them late information.
Right, right. Well, the same weekend that he's at the Bigfoot convention, I will be at Spirits in the Spring, again at Broadhead Manor. So I've got that coming up in June. I've got a couple other things too. I'm just going to open up my calendar here. Doo-doo-doo. Let's see. So yeah, Spirits in the Spring, June 1st and 2nd. I will be at the Paranormal Chicago Paracon, the convention there, and that's at the Countryside Conference
Yep.
Center. You're going to be there too, right?
I'll be down there. I'm coming
Yep.
down. Not sure if I'm gonna be a vendor yet or not, or if I'm gonna be down there just mingling with everyone. So,
Okay, and that is
see,
in Countryside, Illinois
yep.
on June 8th. And then on the 21st and 22nd, I will be at the Halo vendor event at the Halo I know I can speak. I can. I have the ability. Halo Salon. And that's in Wausau, Wisconsin. That's an all-day event there from I think from 10 to 5. 2 days, Friday and Saturday, June 21st and 22nd. So that's what I've got coming up there. And that's my June. Wow.
All right.
That's a short month for me, man.
Nice. Get a little time to relax a little bit.
Yeah.
So what about Brittany, you and Bob? You guys going out to any events this year? Do anything like that?
Not that I know of, but that always changes. So right now things are pretty chaotic for us. We just moved from Ohio to Missouri, so we're still settling in, trying to find our place down here and not necessarily physically, but just mentally trying to figure out our life down here and what that looks like. And so right now our calendars are kind of open, but that always changes and we're always trying to go to new places. So wherever the wind takes us, I guess.
Yeah, there's that too, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Thanks again for spending this time with us. I've really enjoyed your stories, and you have an amazing voice. You might want to consider voiceover. Like seriously, you have an amazing voice. So, thank you, and I guess we'll see you again next week.
Yep. Take it easy, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.